Here with trainer Ron Moquett. Ron, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. You're always a big fan favorite here at Oaklawn.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Well, I'm going to kind of talk about Whitmore, as he is a big Oaklawn and fan favorite as well. Now 8 years old, 38 career starts, 15 trips to the winner's circle. That means a 39% win average, 76% in the money, $4.2 million in earnings. And I think it's safe to say that he is a big Oaklawn horse for course. 9 of those 15 have been right here at Oaklawn Park. It's interesting that he was on the Derby Trail as a 3-year-old runner-up in both the Southwest and the Rebel, 3rd in the Arkansas Derby. Talk to us about his 3-year-old campaign, because he seemed to be right there every time.
Yeah, we liked his pedigree and the fact that, you know, as a 3-year-old that's finishing his races strong, it leads you to believe that the next one's going to be where he gets you. And we kind of had a little traffic trouble in one of the races and thought if we get smooth sailing, and then, you know, we kept thinking just a little more distance would be what would be the difference between us running second in the Rebel and us winning it. So whenever the Arkansas Derby come, we run 3rd, run a great race. That happened to be the year that that Santana won the Derby, so I was very proud for him. But it was always funny that we kept thinking if we added more distance, it was going to make the difference, and instead we took it away, and that seemed to be what ultimately made the difference.
Well, now that was obviously the decision to shorten him back up after the Kentucky Derby. He broke his maiden sprinting, and he's had nearly the same schedule since here at Oaklawn the last 4 years. There's a nice little trend going with him, the Hot Springs Stakes and the Count Fleet. Now, he has won all of those races with the exception of a runner-up in the Count Fleet in 2019. Now, is that what 2021 is going to look like for him?
Well, that's always our goal, is we always want to run in the Hot Springs and the Count Fleet, because we think that is a roadmap to get us to where we want to go at the end of the year, which is the Breeders' Cup. So, you know, it's our starting point. Of course, he always holds the ultimate answer to where we go, but if we can, we'd sure like to run in those races.
Well, let's talk Breeders' Cup. You've been there numerous times with him in the sprint. As a 4-year-old in 2017, he was 8th. 5-year-old in 2018, he was 2nd to a really good horse. Again, as a 6-year-old in 2019, 3rd, again to a really nice horse. And as a 7-year-old in 2020, you made the winner's circle. Was he coming in last year in 2020 to the race any differently than in years past? Was there a difference maker?
Not really. I'd say the difference maker has to do with the horses that he was running against.
No Roy H.
Yeah.
For example.
Or not just that Roy H. and Matoli are great horses, and they are great horses. It was that the situation, there were less than a full field of, you know, the gates wasn't full, and, you know, whenever you have 12 horses all trying to do what they think they're best at in a sprint race, there's going to be somebody has to go a little faster than they are more comfortable doing on their own. So we're a horse that can step back and take advantage if someone goes too fast. And whenever Roy H. won, I think he was an 8-horse field, we run against him twice, and I think that time we were 2nd at Churchill. He just went out there and cruised, and nobody went with him. And if it had been a full field, who knows? I'm not saying we could have beat him, but I'm saying that it would have been a better setup for our running style.
Right.
And this year it was a full gate. There wasn't an obvious standout like a Matoli or a Roy H. So it seemed like, you know, the only known in the whole field was, we know Whitmore is consistent, and we know that if there's pace, he will bring us an opportunity to win. So I believe that's the only difference.
So walk me through that day at Keeneland this past fall, the paddock, the post parade, and the running of the race. Did you have any different feelings, or was it just a regular day for you?
Well, it was odd. It wasn't like a normal Breeders' Cup because, first off, we're dealing with COVID, and we're in different situation as far as people's access to you and your access to the crowds, and so, as far as the day-to-day stuff, it was normal. We take care of the horse. That's what we did. But it was a lot different, situation going to the races, and then you didn't have to get around all the people and hide to watch the race. And I've actually had people want to film us during the race. It's good TV to watch, somebody, especially a lunatic like me. You want to watch their reactions during a race.
Right.
And I've always I'll duck and dive and hide so nobody can see just how goofy I am. But I didn't have to do that this year. I was able to walk up there and avoid all people and just sit there and really enjoy, which happened to be in my business life, the biggest moment of my career and a dream realized basically by myself. And I mean, I could hear the crowd and I could see them all. They're down underneath me, and everybody's there is cheering for their horse. And then it seemed like at about the last 100 yards, everybody quit cheering for their horse and they started cheering for Whitmore. And that was huge. That was something I can't describe. I don't have the words, the command of the English language to tell you how awesome it was to see people that you're competing against start rooting for you the last 50 yards, and to celebrate that with my barn and my family and all that, it was awesome.
And especially score a big upset and just light up the board, and it had to be just such a surreal moment when Irad Ortiz is coming back, and just a moment of pure jubilation.
Oh, it was awesome. It was, and I'm watching my wife and Greta, and everybody's bawling, and other trainers are walking up and picking me up and squeezing me, and jock agents. I mean, it was jubilant, and then not to mention, I bet. So I wasn't worried about that at the time. I just kind of thought, oh, I've got some tickets in my pocket. And I also told everyone that would listen to me that I thought this race set up for him and I thought we was going to win. I told the people on NBC, and I set myself up to look just particularly goofy if we didn't perform. And whenever we did perform and the odds were what they were, it made me look a little like I had an idea of what was going on, and that felt pretty good too.
So with him being runner-up for several years, it gave you that sense of validation.
Yeah. And not for me, the horse. I've got horses in my barn that can't win for 7,500 consistently. And we try. I promise you, we try as hard with them as we do with Whitmore. The difference is the level of ability and the level of want to. And that's what it validated, was that Whitmore deserves to be mentioned among those horses that have, done great things in this sport. I'm not saying he's American Pharoah or California Chrome or any of those, but he's got a niche somewhere as a horse that deserves some respect when you say his name.
Well, he did earn that respect as he was awarded the Eclipse for champion sprinter.
Yeah, that was huge. I didn't know what all that entailed, because for a guy where I'm from, the Eclipse was something that, was never anything that was on my radar. I wanted to win the right races, and you want to win the races with the names beside them. But that's always kind of like a popularity contest. And, I thought, most people don't know who trains Whitmore, and I'm okay with that, but they know Whitmore. So that's, he won that race on his own merit. He didn't win it because Bob's got to have a horse, or Bob Baffert's got to win the race, or Shug McGahee or whatever. He won that race or won the award because he deserved it.
Do you really think people don't realize who trains Whitmore? I mean, you've had barns at Saratoga, at Keeneland. I mean, this horse has definitely put his stamp in the industry. Do you really believe that?
I don't think that they do to the extent they know Whitmore, and I'm fine with that. I'm 100% fine with that. I mean, does anyone know who coached Shaquille O'Neal in high school? or in any of his championships except maybe one. You know, when you have a athlete or a
I'm
potential
sure Phil Jackson did.
yeah, potential star, your job is to help them reach their potential. And if you can drag a hold of the kite tail and let them pull you into some sort of whatever, then great. But your job is to help them reach their potential. And you know, sometimes you're known afterwards, and sometimes you're not. I had to Google who trained several of my favorite horses growing up. And I'm okay with that. You know, the horse deserves it. It's horse racing. It's not trainer racing. And I'm completely okay with people giving 100% of their love to this horse.
So once again, is the Breeders' Cup Sprint kind of the year-end goal for Whitmore? Will he be making his 5th appearance?
If all is well and he wants to do it, that's where we're pointing to. And we set out with a goal every year is what do we want to do with each particular style of horse, and one year it was make it to the Kentucky Derby with him, and we reached the goal. We didn't perform very well when we got there, but we reached that goal. And then the next year it was to try to make it to the Sprint, and you know, our goal this year is to try to make it to the Breeders' Cup Sprint again. We had our only poor performance at San Diego, and that's where it is this year, and we would like to go out there and revisit that location, which is you know, a beautiful historic location. You want to do well at the big places, on the big stages, and we'd like to do that.
So is the plan now, again, to start back in the hot springs, given that we did lose a significant amount of training because of that inclement weather, and the hot springs is March 13th, which is really not that far away?
The plan now is to get to the hot springs. We have a lot of very important days between now and then. So, you know, we will do everything we can to get there without, you know, mashing on the gas. If he drags us there, then that's where we're going. We did miss work, and, you know, but, you know, he's working tomorrow. We'll see how much fitness does he have and where he's at. I want to lead him over with, you know, for my group, our camp, we want to win 5 in a row.
Right.
We call it the one for the thumb. So we want to win that. And, you know, I joked around that we was going to try to keep winning these stakes until they changed the names.
I was going to ask that. Is there any goal of maybe persuading the Sellas to change either the Hot Springs or the Count Fleet Sprint to the Whitmore?
I would never change the Count Fleet Sprint because of the fact that the horse that is named after and the horses that have won that race. I would be honored for Whitmore if they ran a stake named after him. It doesn't have to be a particular stake, but I would be completely honored. You know, when you drive to the backside, you see the barns that's got you're not just named a barn unless you've done something in our industry. And so when you see the barns named, and the stakes are the same way. So whatever they want to do, if they want to do some of that, that's great. We'll take it. If not, then we'll just, when they look at the past results, you know, they'll see his name a lot right through there. And I think we're going to be the all-time winningest stake horse at Oaklawn. And for me, being from 2.5 hours north, that means a lot. I'd rather be the all-time winningest stake horse in Hot Springs, Arkansas than I would at Saratoga, because, you know, just general location.
Location, location, location.
That's right, that's right.
So Irad Ortiz rode him to victory in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and Joe Talamo was in the irons for his local starts in 2020. He's had several pilots. Who's going to get the leg up this meet?
Well, we're not 100% certain. We know that Talamo is good enough to ride him, and we'd be happy if Talamo was, but we're also going to give the opportunity to Irad, and if it is in the schedule where he can, then Irad will be here to ride. If not, then we know that Joe is more than capable, and he won 2 great races with him, and Whitmore likes him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, you know, I give credit to riders.
He's a quirky horse.
He is, but look at that, and if you notice, I mean, he's won the Count Fleet with 2 riders. He's won it 3 times with 3 riders. Sorry, I think 2 or 3 riders. And the King Cotton or the Hot Springs, he's won it with 3 separate riders. So he pretty much can get along with anybody who's ready to play the game.
Right.
You know, he can intimidate the weaker spirited rider though.
And before the race, in the post parade and the load at the starting gate.
Yeah, it's funny, and for unless you've been in the paddock and you've been around a bunch and you've grown up in the sport, but an athlete puts their game face on, right?
Very much.
And there's tails, you know, and Whitmore growls at horses when they walk by. I mean, it's not like he's standing there nervous and I want to, you know, get this over with, or he's A, looking forward to what he's about to do, and B, he's madder than hell at anybody that's run against him. And I love that attitude. You can't train it. I can't take credit for it, but I try to, you know, hone in on it and see if I can get him.
Utilize it.
Yeah, and you know, we've tried to teach him certain things, and then if we figured out something was to his benefit, then we tried to teach everybody else this is how we deal with Whitmore. You know, on race day, it doesn't matter how many times we go in school in the mornings. It doesn't matter. I promise you, he schooled probably more than any horse in the history of Oaklawn. On race day, if you touch him in his backside area, he will offer some lefts and rights. So when the you know, the gate crews always start off wanting to teach Whitmore not to do that stuff. And then they just teach the people, hey, Whitmore's going to do that. And I love that. We've got an awesome gate crew here.
We do.
You know,
very fortunate.
You know, we lost a starter last year who was awesome, and his ability to work with different horses was amazing. And now our man this year has just picked up with that.
Blue's phenomenal.
And they are, you know, they're willing to help the horse be relaxed and still do his job.
Yeah.
And so we basically went through the whole series just teaching people, hey, this is Whitmore, this is what he does. He really means no harm. He just likes to impose his will.
So he's quirky around the barn. He's a handful to train. What are the differences that you've seen in him go from 3 to 6 to 8? Is he still have the same quirks and idiosyncrasies, or have they heightened a little bit?
Certain things he's better with, certain things he still doesn't tolerate. He's taught us things that he's okay with now that he wasn't. You know, you can bribe him a little with a carrot or a peppermint or sweet potato for certain things, and then there's certain things he's just gonna, you know, put his nose up in the air and won't do. So he loves therapies. He loves going in the spa. He loves all that stuff that is attention. He wants that. And then there's a certain time where if you go in his stall, then he wants to murder you. This is my time to be left alone. And it doesn't matter if you walk in there bearing gifts. He wants you out of his stall.
He likes his me time.
Yeah, that's right. That's
As do
right. He's very diva-ish. But, you know, the smallest guy in the world in our barn walks him and is his hot walker. And if you change it up very much, if you get somebody else to walk him, you know, on a day that he doesn't train or something, they might, you know, come back with a divot out of their arm. So, but the small guy, he kind of like, yeah, this is my partner, this is who I like. So we've kind of figured out different things, but overall, you know, 2, he was dangerous. At 2, he was dangerous to himself and everyone.
Really?
Yeah, that's why he's a gelding.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a bad boy. He refused to work at the 2-year-old training cells. Just give everybody the middle finger and said, I'm not doing it.
Wow.
And then when we brought him, I'm going to fix him. You know, I'm going to, you know, out horseman him, and put my wife on him and said, you know, jog him a little bit and stand him and make sure that he goes. If he acts up, then you squeeze his sides and push him through and get him going. And then I hear, you know, one outrider screaming to the outrider going, this son of a gun's trying to kill me. I mean, he froze up on the rail, and when the outrider come up to try to help get him off the rail, with my wife sitting on him, he's double barrel kicking at the outrider. That's not what you want to do.
No.
Not at Churchill.
Usually not.
There's too much traffic. And it was like, you know, well, we're going to try to, maybe he's just shouldn't be a colt. So we gelled him thinking it's going to make it easier. And I mean, I guess it did, but not as much as I thought it would.
They say behind every successful man there is a strong woman, and you are fortunate to have a team of strong women around you. How did you and Laura meet?
At Temperance Hill, right here at Oaklawn. She was working for Glenn Hild at the farm and wanted to be a gallop person at Oaklawn. And she was 18, and I was working for Bernie Flint, and we needed somebody. It was kind of like it is here recently with the weather, where people couldn't get in. And Laura, being from Iowa, just jumped up and drove on in. And a lot of our gallop people couldn't. So a friend of hers said, "Hey, I've got a girl that says she's galloping out there. She can come in and get on some for us in shed row." And I called Bern in. At that time, there wasn't a lot of women galloping, you know. And when I said, "Hey, I've got a 18-year-old girl that is coming in, a friend of someone's. I've never saw her, but she's going to come in and start helping us get on some horses because our guys are froze up off the grounds." He was like, "Don't get that little girl hurt." And, you know, I don't know her, but 18-year-old girls probably shouldn't be galloping on the racetrack. And so she was like, just, you could tell she was good. She didn't take anything off the horses, but they all tend to fall in love with her. And so that's whenever we met. And she went back to school, and I went on doing other stuff, and we were friends forever before we ever went on a date. It was like we hung out and was podnas and stuff before we did. And I mean, when you have horses in common and they control your every move all the time, it's fun to be around people that are like-minded.
Right. Describe her role at the barn.
She is the rule. I'm the bad guy, because when I go through there, I say what has to be done, and I know you want to do this, but we got to do this. And then she's kind of the moderate. She'll say, Ron wants this done. Let's get it done and appease him, or, you know. So she's kind of that. She's the in-between, and she's the consistent. In today's industry, you can work for somebody 5 years. If you're a good assistant, then somebody else will hire you out as a trainer. Well, Laura could have been a trainer on her own many times, and yet she's been with me. And I think the reason that certain people are more successful than others is because, like, you know, Asmussen is unbelievably gifted and a good horseman, but he's got good horsemen that's been with him, very loyal for a long time.
And a whole team of those as well.
Exactly. So that's the difference between consistency. Whenever you lose a key person to go do their own thing, then you have to replace that person, and sometimes they're irreplaceable. Well, I've been able to keep, you know, Laura and Greta for a long time, and that only helps our whole outfit with consistency.
Well, speaking of Greta, you're referring to former jockey and now assistant trainer, Greta Kunsweiler. How important is she to your team?
She's ridiculously important, and she is, you know, Greta's not a friendly person. You know, she's not somebody that's going to sit down there and tell you, you know, talk about your morning or whatever. Greta's very much on point all the time. But she brings a different set of skills and knowledge base than I can get anywhere. And what I mean by that is, you know, Greta's worked Whitmore since he was 2. And, you know, Ricardo's great at working horses, but he's not as, you know, Greta and I speak the same language because she grew up in that position with me. She started as a jockey, and now she's somebody that works all our big horses. And when I tell her to go 51 and Whitmore wants to go 46, she can make them go 51. where, you know, you put a rider that's going to try to impress you or want to ride a horse. Sometimes he won't or she won't be able to do that.
Right.
She's very gifted at getting what you want out of that particular work.
What are 3 things, Ron, that are on your bucket list as a trainer? Because you've already accomplished so much during your time and had a really solid list of horses that have been in your barn. Everybody from starting out with Asher, Petrov, Far Right, Whitmore. What are 3 things that you still want to accomplish?
Well, there's races with names. I'd like to win certain races that mean something. I'm not a guy that's ever going to try to be the leading trainer anywhere. It don't move me. That's just not my thing. I'd like to be known for getting the most out of your opportunity, whatever that is. My job isn't to make a 4-foot guy dunk a basketball, but if I can get him to touch the net and he couldn't before, then I've done well. I would love to win, you know, the Arkansas Derby because, again, location. But you know, the Kentucky Derby seems to be what everyone measures success as a trainer. So I think I probably should try to win that.
I should try.
I should go. Well, I never did say that. All the trainers, when they get their license, well, I'm going to go win the Kentucky Derby. I said I was going to go win the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I mean, it's written all over the place. I don't know why I focused in on that, but to me, that was a bigger race that meant more of a showing your ability than winning the Derby, because horses are bred to run a mile and a quarter or they're not. Horses are, you know, keeping one around for 11 races is not as hard as keeping one around for 50.
Right.
So you know, I want to win all the old races that mean something. I've never won the Vanderbilt. That's the other old one. We won the Phoenix and the DeFrancis Dash. We won those, but
Yeah.
I'd like to win the Jockey Club. I'd like to win those kind of races that mean something. You know, I think we're third in the last 10 years in stakes here behind 2 very good people, Baffert and Asmussen. You know, I'd like to win stakes races when you're supposed to, and then a few I'm not. I don't really have. I need to go back and do that and set up another list of what I want to do, because at one time I had a good list and I wrote them down, and we have, with the exception of the Kentucky Derby and the Arkansas Derby and the Jockey Club and the Vanderbilt, we've won most of those, and it's time to set the goal a little bit higher and go on up and see if we can't, either that or see if we can do everything else we did before again.
Where do you see your barn size in 5 and even 10 years from now?
The same. I'm made fun of by my son all the time because this year, after the Breeders' Cup, I had other opportunities with big outfits, and you know, to me, I would love to have 50 horses that are just everybody's training towards a good race, or you're developing horses. I'm not interested in claiming this one for 50 and running it for 30, or I'm not interested in trying to see if I can win every race at you know, Fauner Park or Delta Downs or wherever else that you can pad stats. This isn't a triple-double league for me. I want to win the races that matter for the people I like and then move on. I don't think financially it's as good a deal as it looks like on paper. I've paid the huge payrolls. I've paid the workman's comp and the feed bills. I want to make it to where I know where I'm at. I know which owners I have. I like them. They like me. We have the same vision, and we're moving the right direction together.
What does the future of horse racing look like? Is it the wave of the super trainer? Is it, we just got news that Churchill is selling Arlington Park? Are there going to be less tracks to compete? What is the future of the sport?
So I'm at that age now to where they don't automatically discount what I say anymore. And I'm not quite strong enough to move the needle. I'm right there in the middle.
Okay.
But in my industry, and I love this sport. If I wasn't training horses, I'd still be a fan. I'd be the guy on the rail. So I think that there's several things that are a detriment to our sport. Corporation ownership is bad. And the reason is everything you do, if you walk through our barn, you see one thing written everywhere, and that's a plaque. That's my motto. It's horses first. Whenever you start taking that out, our industry isn't set up to succeed. And whenever I see, corporations get in there, they change it. It's profit first. And I don't believe it's going the right path as long as that stays the same. I think there's going to be, right now, it's a kind of a purge, and then we're going to come back a little bit better and at least stable. I think there's too much racing right now. That's my opinion. I would rather see less and better instead of, I don't want to look up on a Thursday and see 30 claiming races running in one state. That's not what we started out doing in the sport. I want to see meaningful races with a lot of people having the opportunity to showcase their ability as horsemen. And, now the super trainer is the way it is. I get it. But I'm just thinking that no matter how much we want to be like Europe and everything, I believe we need to step back and understand that the backside is better when there's 20 horse outfits spread out all the way across, and everybody's got a good maiden and everybody's got a good, A other than. It makes it a little bit more, the industry as a whole is better like that. And I'm not one bit discounting the super guys. They've worked hard. They deserve to be where they're at. And you should always do whatever you want to do. And luckily we're in America and you can do that. But I can tell you that our sport is more fun whenever you get to see different people and you get to see other people with their chance to show up and show their ability instead of the same old people getting the same opportunities 20 times more than the guy beside them that's working just as hard.
Yeah, it's always great to see the little guy with 4 and 5 horses make a trip to the winner's circle.
Shoot, yeah, it's that's what it's about. And when I get into the Kentucky Derby and I'm a fan and I'm not in it and we're not running that day, I want to learn about these people that bought this horse and named it after their brother-in-law or the milkman or whatever. I want to learn that stuff and see, Tim Ritchie trained a Fleet Alex twice a day. That's different. Nobody does that, That was awesome.
Yeah.
A Fleet Alex was a great horse, and it showcased Tim's ability to do something, and it wasn't the carbon copy, That's why I'm a little more forward with interviews and stuff like that, is because people are sick of the same old. I could do the canned answers, but I think they want to see the fact that we're all, if you want horse racing to get good, put a microphone out there in the morning whenever we're all, bull cornering with each other and having fun. And
we don't have 10-second delay.
No, just have a button ready. But, some of the funnest things I've ever saw was conversations between Jimmy Garrett and Paul Holthus, or Bob Holthus, and Don Von Hemel and Lynn Whiting.
Yeah.
That was more than art. It was unbelievable how funny they are, and how interesting these people are. So to not give people the benefit and the opportunity to get familiar with these characters that come along, because it takes a character to do this, is I think is a travesty that our sport is doing. Instead, we just push a number out there and say, hey, look, this guy's 26% first off the claim. That don't mean anything. You can affect that number by your ability to lose money. I want to see somebody that come up here and claimed a horse for $7,500 is now winning for 20 somewhere, and oh, by the way, he wears a purple trench coat everywhere, and I mean, like Haas Inman, I mean, that's the stuff that I like. That's what's interesting. Nobody wants to see where we're just fed a constant stream of numbers and canned answers and then go, well, I wonder why no one's interested in our sport. Well, no one signed up for a trigonometry class today. They wanted to see, A, the most beautiful animal in the world doing what it wants to do, and they wanted to see something that would captivate their interest for this long before the gates open, because after that's over, when that gate's open, from that point on, it don't matter. You're watching something special.
Thank you for being so candid, because a lot of people are afraid to do so.
Well,
and
we'll
that's
see
one
how it
thing you've
works.
always been.
Yeah, to my detriment, but I'm okay with it.
Well, I greatly appreciate your time and your words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you.